What's going on, everybody? Papa Tez here with a Summoner's Glory video. What I wanted to do was to give you all a little juice, to give you all a look at the update that is very, very close to being released. We have a bunch of players and we have a bunch of content creators who are working very hard in the background to help identify and squash as many bugs as possible so that this release can get out, hopefully in a very, very timely fashion. So we're doing what we can. But at the same time, I know that there is always that desire, the thirst to know what's coming. And so today I want to give you one of those previews. So today specifically, I wanted to look at all the fire phantoms so that we can identify any of the changes that will be made to these different phantoms. That way you all can start thinking about, okay, how can I use these phantoms now? How will I switch up my teams? Because for some of them, you will definitely be switching up some stuff. So let's go ahead and get into it. And I hope you guys enjoy. Leave a like, subscribe. That way we can continue to get this channel growing. And also so we can continue to give you guys timely and updated information on what's coming out for Summoner's Glory. So let's get right into it. All right, y'all. So I'm in the Grimoire. We're going to look at basically each person side by side. Well, not necessarily side by side. We'll just rotate screens and look at the differences that will be made between them. So let me make sure that I'm on my account here. So this one is my account here. And this is kind of the changes that what we're already used to. But again, each of these phantoms, many of the phantoms are going to be completely reworked and changed around. But one of the coolest things that I've noticed about fire is that the fire phantoms work with each other a lot more. So it's a lot easier to build a specific fire team. We already know that we have those elemental towers and they just get tougher and tougher. So having a group that works well with each other is really, really cool. And I think each of the groups work on that. They work with each other, but even more so just the fire and how that they work out. It's really, really cool and really unique, especially when you get these higher tier ones. It's going to be cool. So let's just quickly go over Zoe's kit. Summons a Phoenix to attack one enemy, deals 200 magic damage and extra magic damage equal to 10% of the enemy's max HP. So we're used to this. She hits really, really hard, even on her A1 with that 10% of the enemy's max HP, and it just scales. She hits hard. But this is definitely one that we're used to. Deals 250 magic damage to all enemies with a 100% chance of setting them on fire for 2 turns. So just an absolute nuke. Gets all the way up to 330. You get her booked out. It's just an absolute nuke. And then this here, which we basically, I think it's this one, the beginning of the battles of all teammates. Their damage is increased by 10%, which is automatic, all the way up to 25%. So just having her out on the field, 25% increase is awesome. And then also at the end of each teammate's turn restores 10% of their lost HP. So we are used to it, and many people, they'll bring her in as a healer, and they also bring her in as a nuker because yeah, she increases all teammates, including herself. Are you ready for the changes? They are different. They are very different, but they are oh so cool. Let's take a look at it. So the A1 now attacks an enemy causing 170% magic damage. If the enemy is under the effect of burn, all other enemies are attacked for the same damage. So if you have her coming in with somebody else that applies burn to everyone, that means that she's going to hit everybody for upwards of 200 damage. You can also see that the levels are increased. So yeah, there's going to be more skill phantoms and more copies that will be needed for each of these phantoms. That's another thing that I did see adjusted. But it is really, really good stuff. So we get to ramp up that damage, and also a lot of times that cooldown is closer to the bottom. So especially for something like this is a 5-turn cooldown now. So this is the one where it was attacking all enemies, causing the 220% magic damage, but it also includes a 75% chance to place burn on each target for 3 turns and stun on each target for 1 turn. What? Yeah. Burn and stun. And look at it. You can see how the damage increases and the chance increases all the way up to 100% chance. What? Yeah, she got buffed, y'all. She got buffed. So she's going to be even more useful. So you get a chance to stun and burn, 100% chance to stun. Really great stuff. And then take a look at this one. This is a huge change. And this is, to me, what puts her in a complete nuker category now at this point. Like, to me, she's just a straight nuke. Like, you can just clear content with her now. And it's just going to be nuts. So attacks all enemies, causing 220% magic damage and reduces their attack bar by 25%. Then instantly activates any burn debuffs on each target. I cannot wait to see how this goes right here. Like, activates the burns, and you can drop this all the way down to a 5-turn cooldown. But that means that, bam, you're just going to absolutely nuke down some waves. So it allows you to kind of go in with her and just completely obliterate waves. That's the way that I'm looking at this. Like, if it's instantly activating any burn debuffs, and as far as I know, you all tell me in the comments, you can stack burn debuffs. You can stack burn debuffs, which means the nuke will be real with Zoe. Yes, Zoe goes from being a nuker to being even more of a nuker now. So it's really, really cool, the changes that they're doing. And no, they did not take away her passive, so she can be a nuker and also giving healing restoration to the rest of your team. 10% of their lost HP, which means that no, you don't have to worry about stacking Zoe with just the large amounts of HP, because it's not based on hers, it's based off of theirs. And so this really allows you to bring in some really cool team comps. Just in case you get hit, then she's actually coming in there and providing that healing still. So to me, that's just crazy. The rework on Zoe is crazy. And to me, it is a huge buff to her kit and gives her a lot more versatility, especially to work with a bunch of the other fire phantoms that we see. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at Dragon Seer here, because Dragon Seer definitely got changed. And worked. Let's take a look at the A1 here. So this one summons a fireball to attack one enemy, deals 100 magic damage with a 20% chance of stunning them. So pretty good chance there. Then summons Sacred Fire to attack one enemy and deals 280 magic damage for 1 turn on a 2-turn cooldown. So just kind of like a really hard hitting A1 that's there. Or sorry, A2. And then here, when attacking, 70% chance of setting enemies on fire for 3 turns, booked all the way up to 100%. And then when attacking, burning enemies restores 10% of missing HP. So he kind of had that within his kit where he did a little single target nuker, did a little healing. But it didn't seem like that was like the best use of him. But let's take a look at Dragon Seer now. Has the changes made him look better? So let's take a look. Attacks one enemy, causes 120 magic damage with a 30% chance to reduce enemy speed by 30% for 2 turns, all the way up to 45% with the damage increasing to 135%. So that's actually really nice, especially for an A1. Then here, instead of a single target, attacks everyone by 170% with a 75% chance to reduce enemy defense, physical, and also magic defense by 50% for 2 turns. Additionally, it prolongs burn effects on a target for 1 turn. So this is really nice, can be booked all the way up to 100% along with it being a 3-turn cooldown. So it allows you to get to this very quickly. Yes, it hits pretty decently, but it also drops the defense by 50% and prolongs any burning effects. So let's say like if you get a 1-turn burn that's out there, then he follows up and then he puts it on 2 turns to make sure it doesn't drop off before you come back with your nuker. Then yeah, it works out really nicely. So really, really cool. And then here, another attacks all enemies with a 50% chance to place burn for 2 turns on every enemy. And as you can see, you can get this all the way down to a 4-turn cooldown and up to 75%. So it's really nice, really nice. So he does a little bit of damage, but he also provides that support there. And then here, when attacking an enemy with burn debuffs, with a 35, when attacking an enemy with burn debuff has a 35% chance to increase your own attack bar by 20%. So then that just allows you to go a little bit quicker. So really nice synergy within this kit. Definitely to me seems like a pretty nice change right there. All right, let's move on to the next one, Sea Conqueror, who we love because many people talk about Sea Conqueror just coming out there and doing her thing. So she has the single target A1, does the physical damage. Not a whole lot there, but also does 15% of the user's max HP. Actually, this hits really, really hard. I just thought about it. I'm like, hold up, no, this actually hits really, really hard. And also reduces the physical and magic defense by 30%. And as you can see, the damage can increase and get all the way up to 60%. So really, really nice skill there. Then this one attacks an enemy 4 times in a row, dealing 3% of max HP each time. The last hit deals additional physical damage equal to 5% and a 30% chance of stunning the enemy, and absorbs all enemies' attack bar by 25%. So this was the huge portion of that. And it just kind of creeped up with the damage. So it really ended up being a really nice hard-hitting skill. But it also, the attack bar thing there. So that was really, really cool and very useful. And then here, she increases the attack bar of the rest of the team by 20% there, all the way up to 35%. So it's definitely heavily used. And this part here, where you can get all the way when booked out to a 30% chance of getting an extra turn, which means that you can do this first, increase everybody's attack bar, and then come back with this one to reduce the attack bar on the enemies. So really, really cool. But what has changed? What has changed? Let's take a look. So notice here, it still now attacks an enemy, 130 physical damage. So instead of scaling off of max HP, so she is a little bit different. And now she has a chance to reduce enemy magic and defense for 50%, which it can be increased to 100% chance, which is really, really cool, along with the 160 damage. So there is definitely a little bit of change there. Let's take a look at this one though. So you attack an enemy doing 370 damage. So she just has just a straight up just a nuke of an ability with a 30% chance of stunning. Then there's a 75% chance to reduce heal effects on all enemies by 100% for 2 turns if the initial target is killed by the skill. So if you go in and you take one person out, you basically put a heal reduction, 100% heal reduction on everybody else, making her definitely different, definitely different. But as you see, 400, man, that's going to hit hard as a truck, along with the healing effect. So that's really different. You can definitely tell that this is different. So she's no longer doing the attack bar portion anymore. Instead, she has a chance of that 30% chance of stunning somebody. It would be nice, of course, if this was split out to multiple hits, kind of like the way that it was before. She does a total of maybe 400 damage, and 4 hits, each hit does 100. And then you have that heal reduction, but then it would just give 4 different chances to get a stun, which would make her, I think, really useful and viable a lot of places. But this is still totally different. So it's on a 3-turn cooldown, really different. And then this one here, attacks all enemies, causing 170% physical damage with a 75% chance to reduce enemy defense and physical defense. Notice this, cannot be resisted. Cannot be resisted. So she's going to land this no matter what. Additionally, it increases damage of all allies by 50% for 2 turns. So then she's coming back and increasing your damage, and it can be booked up to 100% chance. So that means that you may not even need to have accuracy built out for her. She just hits. It can't be resisted. It just lands. This is cool. This is cool. So to me, it's totally different because, again, we're used to her being kind of like that turn meter control person, but now we have other people that are going to fill in that role. And now she really brings in a true support feel where, I mean, this is just going to be so good because people are going to get this character early on and they are going to love her. I think that it's definitely a complete different change, and it's really, really good. I like it a lot. I like the change. It's totally different. I'm trying to think what's on a 5-turn cooldown. So yeah, it does have a little bit of a high cooldown, but again, I think it's kind of geared toward nuking down the enemies, but then you can still have the A1 or the A1 chance on the first attack. That's really, really cool. Really cool to me. And then as you can see, she has at the end of the turn, there's a 25% chance to get a new turn immediately. And basically it goes all the way down. She loses all the cooldowns. So that means that she can I'm interested to see how this works out as opposed to how it was before. So there's a chance, I think, again, that she can still do those multiple turns back to back to back to back. So really, really cool so far. All right. So let's take a look at Mr. Bezerker. And I think, yeah, we're getting close to one change that you all are going to think is going to be different. It's going to be kind of cool, though. All right. So Piercing Strike. I'll try to move along a little bit quicker here. So attack one enemy deals 100% physical damage with a 60% chance of reducing their physical defense for 4 turns, which that's kind of unique because man, like you can just hit somebody and then keep hitting people over and over with the A1. Attacks an enemy and deals physical damage equal to 70% of the user's current HP. So yeah, like he hit really hard and on a 2-turn cooldown. So yeah, really hard hitter. Before being attacked, there's a 50% chance of switching to a defensive stance and reducing incoming damage from the attack by 25%, which is kind of cool because he was one of the few that had this. And this is, to me, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. And he was all the way up to a 40% reduction there. And then when attacked, there's a 35% chance to reflect 50% of the health taken and restore 15% of HP. HP after revival increases to 40%. Interesting. So this is the portion I didn't really completely understand, but I think he would get, I'm not sure. But we're just going to move on to the next one. I'll ask higher standard on that one because that's not one that I understand really well. As he definitely knows that. But take a look at what he has now. Attacks an enemy 120% physical damage. Enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. So now he has a block revived. Book all the way up to 150 damage. So really cool. Then here, notice this one. Attacks one enemy causes 420 all the way up to 450 physical damage. And as you can see, can go down to a 3-turn cooldown and preventing the target from using after skills or being buffed. So he literally can lock out one person and keep them locked out. That's really cool for 2 turns. And then here, makes all allies block damage for 2 turns. So then he can just go into a defensive stance on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. Man, that's really cool and can really make him useful. That's totally different. So I think that looks really, really cool thus far. All right, let's go on to the next one here. Let's go back here. We're going to take a look at Mr. Prometheus, who a lot of people found out was really, really good. I know I was using him for quite a bit, but let's see the changes. Are they going to be better? So we have the attack one enemy booked up to 120% damage increase and an 80% chance of setting them on fire for 2 turns. Then he summons a fire jet to attack 4 enemies, deals 220 magic damage with 100% chance of setting them on fire. That was on a 3-turn cooldown. And when taking damage, has a 50% chance of activating the burn wheel effect, which increases the damage of the next attack by 30% per stack. So he would increase his own damage. As you can see, 4 times 45, that's 180% damage increase there. Man, I cannot word today, or probably ever. And notice the increased crit rate in battle by 35%. So you don't have to build him for crit rate. You just build him for crit damage and make him absolutely nuke because he has 50%. So that's the way that he was. Let's take a look at now. Also, too, if you all notice something, look at the graphics here, right? You can kind of see like some of the edges and stuff like that. But take a look here. Y'all see a little bit of the update? Things look a little bit smoother. Yeah, things look a little bit smoother. It's less grimy, a little bit smoother on the characters and stuff like that. So especially you'll find that in the open world. But anyway, let's get back on subject here. All right, so he has 120 magic damage with a 60% chance to reduce the enemy's damage by 50%. So he can reduce the enemy's damage, and if the enemy is under a poison, bleed, or burn, the chance is 100% instead. And so he can go after that person that nukes and just straight up reduce their damage by 50%. That's nuts. Just a huge decreased damage. It's not decreasing attack. It's not reducing defense. It's saying whatever type of nuker you are, I can reduce your damage by 100% if you are under poison, bleed, or burn, which is really good because it makes him compatible with a bunch of other people. Notice this one here too. So he 170 damage can be booked up to 200% damage on all enemies with a 100% chance of burn for 2 turns on each enemy. Remember that synergy I was talking about earlier? So again, you bring him in and then you bring in Zoe and she's just activating that burn. My goodness. And then take a look at this one here. Attacks all enemies, cause 130% magic damage and places stun for 1 turn if the enemy is under burn debuff. Additionally, increases the duration of burn debuff for 2 turns. Can't be resisted, which makes him excellent. So he can come in and stun, put some burns. You have somebody else come in and put burns. They're stunned. Then, man, I mean, so when you think about it, do you see what I'm saying? Do you see this lockout that you can have with the fire team? It's really, really cool. It's a really, really cool difference that you have there. That's completely unique, I think now. It really changes the game in a really cool way. All right, Legendary Warrior. We always looked at Legendary Warrior like trash. He just hit some people for 350 damage when booked. Creates a shield that it reduces incoming damage and taunts the target, which was kind of meh. Didn't really feel like it worked all the time. He got fixed or whatever to where it kind of worked, kind of didn't work. 3-turn taunt, meh. And then increases physical and magic defense by 35% on himself, which is kind of cool. And then when attack received the 25% damage reduction. So he's really good for like stall teams that, especially for PvP. But notice this rework. This is one that really impressed me for sure. He has attacks all enemies, causing 170% physical damage with a 30% chance to reduce enemy speed by 30% for 2 turns. So this is kind of similar to, I think, what Sea Warrior. And as you see, it goes up to 50% with a 200% damage, physical damage. And then let's take a look at this. Attacks all enemies, causing 270 physical damage, so a nice hitter, and places protection to all allies that reduces 50% damage for 2 turns. Additionally, 30% HP recovery buff is granted to users for 2 turns, and the duration of all buffs of all allies is increased by 1 turn. Look at this skill. Nuts. Damage mitigation, HP recovery. So if you lose, then you get 30% of your HP back, and increases the duration of all other buffs. Like, that's cool. That's really, really cool. All right. And then here, which this is to me is just, I love it. Taunts all enemies for 1 turn, granting 50% damage reduction for 2 turns. Additionally, attack bar of all allies is increased by 20%. This guy is good now. So he can taunt everybody on a 3-turn cooldown, so he can keep you taunted, especially if you have the proper speed. So just imagining in PvE, you got them stunned, you got them taunted. Like, what are they going to do? So now you can literally lock out all of a boss's enemies and make sure that they don't come in and attack you. Like, this is really, really nice. And then here at the start of each round, places shield buff to all allies for 2 turns. 50% of the user's maximum HP. So when I say the user's maximum HP, if I remember correctly, it's talking about this guy. So you book this guy with straight HP, and then when hit, there's a 75% chance to reduce the enemy's physical defense and magic defense by 50%, and reduce the enemy's damage by 50%. So you're just getting all of these debuffs. Like you're getting a damage reduction completely across the board, and also a defensive break. 100% chance. Nuts, man. This dude is completely changed. He's completely changed, and he's really, really cool. So definitely check him out. Definitely check him out. All right, let's move on to the next one here. So we'll take a look at, oh, guess what? If you notice, that guy's not next anymore. So he is no longer fire, which to me makes sense. It didn't seem like that he should be fire, but he's no longer fire. So he switched over. So let's take a look at it. He switched over. We'll take a look at him real quick and see what's changed with him. So he used to attack one enemy, deal 100% physical damage and reduce their speeds by 35%. Attacks an enemy with 9 strikes. So he did a pretty large amount of damage there on that. A bunch of hits there. It was on a 3-turn cooldown. He did a lot of damage. And there's a 50% chance of increasing his speed by 35% for 2 turns. So it's interesting, and each attack 35% chance of causing an additional 80% physical damage. Effect can occur multiple times in a turn. So that means that this had a chance of really hitting very, very hard and just straight up nuking somebody. So yeah, that was definitely, he was interesting, but he wasn't consistent. So let's go back and take a look at what he looks like now. So we'll go in here. So this will be one of the few that we actually will go over that's over here. So let's take a look at him now. So now he attacks an enemy, causes 120 physical damage with a 35% chance to reduce the enemy's physical defense and magic defense by 50% for 1 turn. If the target's HP is below 50%, an additional attack will be executed against all enemies, causing the same damage and placing a poison on each target for 1 turn. So that's really good. And then, of course, that physical defense chance, that defensive break, physical and magic defense can be up to 60% and hit for 150. So that means that if they're below 50%, just that whoever target that he's targeting, he's going to attack everybody for 150%, including the person that he just attacked, and put a poison on all of them. So really different. Then his skill here, which can be booked down to a 3-turn cooldown, 200%. So it can be attack all enemies, causes 170 up to 200% physical damage with a 75% chance to place poison for 2 turns, which can be booked up to 100%. And additionally, an immunity to all debuff is placed on the user for 2 turns. So he doesn't put this on everybody. He puts it just on himself, but now he's immune. So you can't debuff him. And then here, attacks all enemies causing 200 physical damage and instantly activates all poison debuffs on enemies to cause full immediate damage on each poison target. So now he activates poisons on a 4-turn cooldown, 230% damage, and activates the poisons, which is cool. And then here, before taking fatal damage, places a death debuff on self for 1 turn. That can be all the way down to 0. So this guy can just be so annoying because he's like, nah, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die at all. I'm still just going to be alive. Too bad. Too bad, so sad. You tried and you failed. So really cool changes that are occurring there that I definitely think are really, really cool changes. All right. Queen of Chaos. Let's see what she's doing here. All right, so she used to attack one enemy, deal 100% physical damage with a 30% chance of inflicting confusion on them, which could cause them to attack others, booked up to 120%. Then she would sacrifice 10% of her HP to hide in a chaos dimension and become untargetable. So she basically put kind of like a veil on herself, and the HP cost would be reduced. So she couldn't be targeted. And then she would basically, inside of that dimension, come through and whip all enemies 9 times kinky and cause 22.5 physical damage each time, all the way up to 29%, with a 10% chance of inflicting confusion on them for one turn. And this proc pretty decently, so she was really good. And then a passive. Each time the user loses 30% HP, grants 1 stack of vampirism, which restores HP equal to 30% of damage dealt. Each time the user returns from the Chaos Dimension, damage is increased by 30%. Can be stacked up to 90. Basically 90 damage there. And then the HP loss here was what? Reduced to 15% and damage increased to 45%. So she could definitely hit hard, but of course she needed a lot of turns. So let's take a look at the changes. Notice this. Now she has an attack all enemies, causes 110 physical damage with a 25% chance to clear a random debuff on each target, which can be increased to 50% chance and 140 damage. So really cool A1 that has a chance of just hitting everybody and clearing just 1 debuff on each target. Which means that'll be our team. I guess that would be the debuff will be cleared on our team. All right, then taking a look here. Attacks all enemies causes 170% physical damage with a 75% chance to reduce the enemy's accuracy by 50% and speed by 30%. Additionally, invisibility is granted to the user who cannot be targeted for 20 turns. So that can be booked up to 100% on a 3-turn cooldown. So she can reduce everybody's accuracy and speed. That's really nice. And then removes a random buff on all enemies with a 75% chance to place a blocking buff on each target that prevents placing removed buffs. Interesting. So they can't place the remove buffs. Now I wonder if that means, is it just a blocking buff period, or is it specifically for those remove buffs? So I want to get that clarified. Additionally, it increases accuracy by 50% and speed by 30%. So you can increase your accuracy and increase your speed. And this is on can be booked to a 4-turn cooldown and place a block buff on the opposing team. That's really cool and really different. And then finally, for every buff removed from the enemy, restores 2% of the user's HP and 4% of the attack bar, and can be all the way up to 5% and a 10% attack bar increase. So just imagine they have, like, you're going against a team and they are faster than you and they just stack buffs. But Queen of Chaos, she ends up staying alive and she just yoinks. She just starts yoinking those buffs. So she'll just do 4 of them. She doesn't remove all of them, but then she'll basically restore, let's see, 4. You're going against a team of 4 or 5. Let's just say 4. 20% there, and then 40% there. Like that's really cool. So she does have a completely different kit, which I think makes her really viable to bring in on your teams. All right, this is going to be a big one right here. Another one that a lot of people have used, and I think you'll still continue to use them. So let's take a look. He would attack 2 enemies, deals 100 damage, and converts 25% into health. Booked all the way up to 130%. Also here, he would grant Blood Boil effect to 1 ally, which will grant them 30% extra attack and full attack bar for 1 turn, which he could use on himself. And upon using the skill, he loses 10% of his current health. And it was booked to a 3-turn cooldown. He could get up to 75% extra attack and lose 20% of his HP. So yeah, straight up nuker. But the cool thing was that deals 150% damage to all enemies, and every 10% of HP that Bloody Overlord loses grants 1 extra attempt to deal damage, max 4. So if he's taken away a bunch of his stuff, then it means that he's just going to hit like crazy. And the last hit deals increased damage, increases by 20%, booked all the way up to 200%. So that's like a 220% smack. Just the dude just smacks. Okay. And then here, when the enemy has a debuff, an additional 50% damage is caused by Bloody Overlord. So especially if you put him in a set that already does damage, then it's just straight nuking for Bloody Overlord. But what has changed? Does he seem like he's been nerfed or buffed? Let's take a look. Now he attacks all enemies, causes 120% magical damage. If the attack is critical, there's a 30% chance to place burn on the enemy for 1 turn, which can be 50% and 150 damage. So looking nice on the A1, it's an all enemy attack, which is nice. Then here, this is totally different. Increases the attack bar of all allies by 30% while prolonging the duration of all buffs by 1 turn. Additionally, the damage of all allies is increased by 50% for 2 turns. So it's definitely different from what we're used to having, but this can be put on a 4-turn cooldown. But now he comes in as a support role. So it's really, really different, But that damage increase, again, think about team synergy, especially if you're attacking the fire dungeon. This is going to be good. Then here, attacks all enemies causing 150 damage. If the target is under the burn effect, an additional attack is triggered causing the same damage, which can be up to 180 damage. So definitely way different. And on the start of battle, there's a 30% chance to place burn on all enemies for 1 turn, all the way up to 55%. So this is really interesting to me. The reason why is because it's like he's not necessarily a nuker anymore, but more or less he can still hit really hard, but he's more of a support. So that's what it seems like to me. But he can support Zoe, Princess Zoe, really, really well. And then she comes in and she absolutely obliterates the entire team. So it's really, really cool to me. I definitely like the synergy and think that it's cool and different. All right, let's take a look at General Fire. We'll see if he got any changes here. Some of these I don't know, so some of them I'm going over them as I chat with you all. So here in this video. And again, if there's anything that you all want to see or whatever, just take a look in the comments and we'll go from there. Especially if you see anything or just want a few more details on it, or if you have questions, then I can pass those questions off so that we can get those answered as quickly as possible. All right, so let me make sure I'm in the right spot this time. So General Fire, he used to attack one enemy, deal 120 physical damage, and taunt them for 3 turns. Kind of cool. He would also taunt all enemies for 3 turns. Incoming damage is reduced by 50% until the start of the next turn. Was on a 3-turn cooldown. So booked all the way up with 65% damage reduction. So he could just taunt the whole team and keep them from attacking. So really cool, really strong. He also dealt 100% more damage to taunted enemies. Damage to a taunted enemy will restore 10% of missing HP. So he would also keep himself alive, which is cool. And when being attacked, there's a 50% chance of performing a counterattack and dealing 100 physical damage, meaning that he's probably restoring HP on this counterattack too. So yeah, that's really cool. But let's see what has changed on him. All right, so we have the one, he's attacks an enemy, causes physical damage equal to 120 of its physical defense. So he's defense based. 75% chance to reduce the enemy's action bar by 15%, which can be booked up to 100%. If the target has the burning effect, it will deal the same damage for an additional time. So he'll attack twice. Now I wonder if he'll reduce the action bar also to twice. If he does that, then that'll be cool. All right, then here he has the taunt all enemies still and reduces damage by 35%, which can be booked up to 60%. And then here, when attacking an enemy, if the target is under the taunt effect, restores 10% of his HP and has a 65% chance to clear a random buff from the enemy. So it can be booked to 100% to remove a debuff, and it can go up to 20% of his HP. So that's actually different, and it seems really good. So think about it. You have him, he's taunted. That's his passive. He's got them taunted. He's reducing the damage that he takes from the taunt and then restoring his own HP. So he's going to be kind of difficult to take out. And then when attacked, increases attack bar of all allies by 15%. So think about the kind of cool team that you could run with him. You can run a bunch of slow nukers. He goes really fast. He taunts the entire team. And it's just smack, 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 bam. 15% increase. And as you can see, it does go to a 3-turn cooldown. So it's once per turn. But you can kind of get some teams situated to where you can run those slow nukers. They're just attacking him over and over again. Get your stuff set up on the other side. They come in and try to buff themselves. It gets removed. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So there can be some really fun team comps that can be done with that. All right, y'all, we're getting down closer toward the end now. We're getting down close toward the end. So I expected this to be a pretty long video. So hopefully you guys are in for the ride. But I really wanted to start doing this. So I'm going to do the other elements too. But this was just the first one so far. All right, so Mr. Dude here summons a fireball to attack an enemy, deals 100 magic damage. Damage increases to 120. Then he summons several fireballs to deal 200 magic damage to all enemies on a 2-turn cooldown, all the way up to 230. Pretty nice. And then the unit deals 50% additional magic damage when attacking burning enemies. So his damage increase up to 65% additional magic damage. And when attacking, there's a 40% chance of setting the enemy on fire for 3 turns. So let's take a look and see now what he has. So he attacks an enemy 3 times, causing magic defense equal to 50% with a 30% chance to place burn on each target for 2 turns. If the target is already under the effect of burn, 20% of damage caused is converted into user's HP. So damage increased to 60. So kind of cool. Then he does this, attacks all enemies, causing magic damage equal to 190% of magic defense with a 40% chance to taunt each enemy for 1 turn, which is kind of cool. So now he can actually work as a taunt. Then all enemies who are under the effect of burn are automatically taunted and their damage is reduced by 50% for 2 turns. This is a huge ability. So as you can see, that can go on a 3-turn cooldown. It's only a one taunt, but still just really nice. And then he has the 210 and 60% chance. But again, you have somebody going and it's burning already. And then he can come in and just do the whole taunt and keep them on him for at least 1 turn. So really cool, really cool. And in this one here, after attacking, there's a 30% chance of placing burn on the target for 2 turns. So one thing I am curious of is, will the burns continue to stack or is it just the 1 burn? But if they are continuing to stack, that's going to be really, really, really cool. If they stack like poisons, which I'm assuming, yes, I'm assuming that bleeds, poisons, and burns will just continue to stack. So if you just lay out all those burns, come back with Goddess Zoe, bam, they're done for. So really, really cool look on him so far. All right, let's look at Mr. Flame Draconid. Did I say that right? Draconid? Flame Draconid. I just want to call him a Draconoid. Man, he's really weird looking, man. He definitely looks better and different here, but he's still, man, I'm just going to call him Thunder Thighs, man. We're just going to call him Thunder Thighs. Let's go with Thunder Thighs. Is his head smaller over here? He's got a smaller head. He's a little bit buffer. Yeah, that's interesting. He's definitely got a smaller head there. Interesting. All right. So he does the stabby stab with his spear, causes 100% physical damage and sets them on fire for 4 turns. So just the automatic fire setter. Attacks 1 enemy, deals 225 damage, and it reduces the damage of their subsequent attacks by 50% for 1 turn. 2-turn cooldown. Smack, smack, all the way up to 280. Then when attacking, 35% chance of stunning the enemy, which is cool, so he could burn and stun. And then increases crit damage by 40%. So you didn't have to worry too much about stacking the crit damage all the way up to 55%. So he had an okay kit, but again, it just didn't seem too viable, right? Let's take a look at it now. Attacks an enemy, causes 120 physical damage with the 45% chance of placing burn, can be increased all the way up to 60% chance of placing the burn, and also 150 damage. Then here, attacks an enemy, causes 370 physical damage with a 75% chance to steal 2 random buffs and reduce the target's healing effects by 100%. So really nice there. And then that can be booked up to 100%. Excuse me. So we can take buffs and then stop you from healing on a 3-turn cooldown. And it's a really hard-hitting skill, so really cool. Also this, whenever the user is being attacked, then attack bar is increased by 5% and can go all the way up to 20%. So definitely a different kit, can definitely be a little bit more viable. All right, let's continue here with Mr. Duke of Fate. All right. So what he used to have, summon a rune to attack one enemy and deal 150 magic damage. Then he summoned a rune barrier to deal 250 magic damage to all enemies and 50% chance to absorb their attack bars by 30%. So it's a decent hitting ability. Then when attacking, there's a 50% chance of inflicting confusion on an enemy for 1 turn. You could be booked up to 65%. And when attacking confused enemies, deals 200% additional magic damage. So that means that he could absolutely smack if you set him up right. But what's different now? Let's take a look. Attacks an enemy, causing 120% magic damage and reducing enemy effect hit by 50%. So it really just straight up drops their accuracy for 2 turns there, which is really cool. Booked up to 150% damage. Then here, attacks all enemies, causing 170% magic damage with a 75% chance to steal a random buff from each target. So it can be 100% chance and can be on a 3-turn cooldown. So now he's just straight up yoinking. And then here, increases the damage of all allies by 50% and crit chance by 30% for 2 turns. So now he's functioning more as a support character because he can increase everybody's damage and the crit chance. So now you can bring people in a 70% crit and just still get that bam, bam, bam. So really, really nice. And it works in really good synergy with your actual character, especially if you're stacking the all character speed, then the all character crit rate. Now, bam, you're getting that crit increase there. So you can really build out into the crit damage stats and really just build some really hard hitting people having somebody like this. So really nice. All right. Yep. We got to look at Goblin Transporter because we all know secretly deep down, we want to build out a Goblin Transporter. Can we build them out now? We'll see. All right, so we used to throw a gold coin at one enemy, deal 100% physical damage. Throw gold coins at all enemies, deal 180% physical damage, booked up to 240. I think the first skill was booked up to 120. Then when attacking, has a 50% chance of reducing the enemy's speed by 20%, no matter which attack he does, A1 or A2. And the chances went up to 65% when booked. And then increases magic defense in battle by 10%. All the way up to 25%. So interesting. Again, we always wanted to see, can we do something cool with him? Let's take a look at him now. Look at him. His eyes are a little bit more, much better coloring now. Man, I'm so glad that their heads are getting a little bit smaller. But he definitely looks like somebody that's just going to take your money. And the little flap there is just letting all of it show apparently. So anyway. Attacks an enemy causing 170% physical damage. Additionally, if the target is stunned, the attack bar of all enemies will be reduced by 10%. So if they're already stunned, which I don't know if he does the stunning, I think he probably has it in his next move, then he's going to reduce their attack bar, everybody's attack bar, which is going to be awesome. Booked up to 200% damage and 75% or 25% of the attack bar being yoinked. So really cool. And then as you can see here, there is the stun, which can be 100% on a 3-turn cooldown. Attacks all enemies, causing 170% physical damage. Man, that's going to be kind of nice. And then upon death, there's a 75% chance to increase the damage of all remaining allies by 50% for 1 turn. So then that can be 100% chance. So think of it this way. You build him to get knocked out, everybody else's damage increases, and then they come back and smack. And if you got a reviver, you just bring him back up and then just let him do his thing. To me, I just think about building him as like just a complete noodle and then just let him go from there. All right, y'all, we're gonna try to make it through the rest of this here. I think I'm getting to the end of my ability to talk here. Scarlett Dragoness. Lovely, lovely lady here. All right, so what she did before, attack one enemy deals 100% physical damage with a 50% chance of setting him on fire, which was booked up to 120. Then she attacked one enemy, dealt 225% physical damage, and completely set them on fire, booked up to 270% chance. And then she increases her own crit rate in battle by 40%. She also, crit hits have a 20% chance of dealing additional physical damage equal to 10% of the user's HP, all the way up to 16%. So yeah, straight up nuke for sure. Or could be function as a nuke. So now as you see again, as I was talking about earlier, that synergy that's happening in between all the characters. So now she attacks an enemy, causes 120% physical damage with a 50% chance to place burn for 2 turns. Damage increased to 150% when booked. And take a look at this. It buffs the user with 50% increased damage and attacks an enemy, causing 380 physical damage, all the way up to 410. If the target is killed, there's a 50% chance of placing burn to all enemies for 2 turns. Book down to a 3-turn cooldown. So that means that she can do 410 damage, but she's going to 50% increase that, right? I'm not sure if I 100% understand. It's like, is she going to do 410 damage or is she not? Is she really doing 820 damage? I'm not sure. All right. So at the start of user's turn, the duration of all debuffs is reduced by 1 turn. So really, really cool. Okay. Let's look at the rest of this. We can make it through this. We can make it through this. We still got under the effects a little bit, but we can make it through this. All right, here we go. Attacks one enemy with burst of fire. I'm on the right page. 100% magic defense. Damage increases to 120% chance. Then you would summon a fireball to attack one enemy and deal 220 magic damage. On a 2-turn cooldown, all the way up to 265. And then when attacking, has a 40% chance of setting enemies on fire, all the way up to 55%. And then when attacking burning enemies, deals a 50% additional magic damage. So they could surprise you and beat you up there. So let's take a look at them now. Attacks an enemy, causing 120% magic damage, with 50% of reducing the enemy's healing by 100%. So looks like that can be increased to 75% and the damage increased to 150%. The A2 attacks an enemy, causes 350 magic damage with a 75% chance to place burn on the target for 2 turns, cannot be resisted. So again, I'm assuming that you don't need to build accuracy for that whatsoever. So it can go up to 380% damage and then 100% chance of placing a burn that can't be resisted. So really nice. Then when attacking a target with burn, there's a 35% chance to increase his own attack bar so that he can go ahead and start pumping these things out here. So this is a 3-turn cooldown, but then at least you get a chance here of the healing. And then cause an explosion when attacking target with burn, causing 150 magic damage to all enemies, all up to 130. So that's really, really cool. So I just wanted to kind of go over all those different little changes and stuff there so that you all can see what's going on. And hopefully it'll get you a little bit excited about what's to come. I'm not really going to go over the skill phantoms because they're skill phantoms. But what do you all think of all the fire? What do you think about all of this fire that's being changed here inside of these phantoms with all these 5 ones? We still got 4 others to go, but this was basically the first one. So we'll see how things go. But I just wanted to get this out here so that you all can start seeing some of these changes and see, okay, who do I want? Who am I going to save for? And what am I going to do going forward in the future? So I hope you all have a fantastic day. Thank you again for watching this video. Again, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. We're definitely starting up basically a completely new channel that's going to focus on all things Summoner's Glory. So we'll be bringing you any updates and things that we can share with you guys here on this channel. So hope to see you next time, and I hope you have a fantastic, fantastic day. Peace. All right, let's keep going here. Let's keep going here. So let's go over to the next one. Oh, what did I do there? What did I do? There we go. So I think really, really cool. All right. Excuse me, y'all. A lot of talking here. I'm gonna go get some water real quick. Be right back.